Contributing features reporter Sarah Davidson recently visited with Drew Barrymore on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They had lunch together at the restaurant in Barney's clothing store. After losing weight, Barrymore wanted to buy some new jeans. The restaurant was noisy, but she offered to talk louder. And when she did speak about the ups and downs in her life and her new movie, Lucky You, everyone listened.
You look very thin right now.
Thank you. I'm at a low point right now, which is good. For me, I have to just be happy. I can't live with the deprived lifestyle. Like, if I want to eat and gain a few pounds and not exercise, I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna embrace it. And the minute I start to feel bad, I know exactly what to do.
So tell us.
Well, I find that portions is everything. I really do. If you just, and I've now learned, I was reading this great book called Superfoods. It's so good. And to learn what is healthy for you and what isn't. And I live for pasta. It's my favorite food. If I could eat it 4 times a day, every day of my life, I would. But the refined flour is not very good for our bodies, and it doesn't produce well, and we don't know how to work with it inside. And so, it tends to just become like fat and cellulite, and this is such a bummer because it's so darn good. I love it. But I think that, moderation and exercise and knowing to eat what you need to eat, and, there are different tricks for everybody, whether it's like eating the big soup before the meal so you're not as hungry, like whatever. But you just have to find what works with you, and you can't have this image in your mind of what you're supposed to be if your bodies are completely different. No matter how hard you exercise and how little you eat, you're never going to look like that. And when people get ridiculously thin, then they're torn apart for that too. So I just think you have to be healthy and you have to be happy. And when I obsess about my weight, I find I don't lose any. It's like my mind is in as much control of my body as my intake is. When I start to relax and embrace my body and do healthy things and eat healthy and live healthy and have a healthy mind, I lose more weight than if I did all those things, but my brain is obsessing and being unkind to myself.
So in Lucky You, you're playing a role that I understand is very different from the bubbly, youthful characters that we've come to know you in. What attracted you to this particular role?
Well, I guess getting older,
How old are we?
I'm 31 right now. At around the time when I was considering making this film, I was 29, and I knew that going into my 30th year of life, I really wanted to make some different choices, something that felt more matching to the maturity and the darkness. I feel like I've explored and expressed my light, but I think people have the polarity of the yin and yang, the positive and the negative, the light and the dark. And the dark was something that I hadn't explored in my work enough. And I felt it bubbling up inside of me, and I wanted to surround myself in people and projects that would help me find that and bring it out. I did a film called Riding in Cars with Boys, and it's one of the most proud films of mine for me because I worked really hard, and it was a character that was a bit darker, and Penny Marshall really was very hard and diligent and a great disciplinarian to me when I was doing it. And I really stayed in character, and it was a role that I really researched a lot. I was playing a real person. She'd written a book. I spent time with her, and even though it was a difficult and challenging experience, it was something that I'm really happy to have done, and I just wanted to get back to. When I got the opportunity to work with Curtis Hanson, there was sort of a dual thing. I wanted to work with filmmakers I admire or take on some characters that I felt had more depth and darkness than the other characters I had been playing. I think a lot of the times in comedy too, you're always relying on yourself. You're the only person that you get to bounce ideas off sometimes. And if you're working with a fellow comedian, then you get to work off them, especially if you get like a rally going. I think that comedy is very internal, whereas drama, it seems like you're constantly collaborating. Sure, you get to pull from your own experiences, but drama seems to be different.
A lot of actors say that comedy is harder to do than drama. You know the old chestnut.
Dying is easy, comedy is hard.
Well, with a drama, if the audience feels something, they're satisfied. With a comedy, if they didn't scream their heads off laughing, then it was no good.
I love comedy. I'm never going to stop doing comedy. It is hard. They're both hard. Maybe the drama is newer to me, so I'm more excited by it, and I don't know the process as well yet.
Have you always been funny?
I know that I get a lot of weird sayings that I say from my mom. She was sort of like a flighty, weird, trippy person who would make weird, funny comments. She'd say, go by what I mean, not by what I say. I can see a cadence in myself that was her, which is sort of this self-deprecating, out in the ether, cosmic hippie sort of humor that I just can't take myself too seriously.
You had to grow up fast, so
I did.
Were you unhappy and angry and miserable?
No, in fact, my therapist says I still haven't gotten in touch with my anger. So I don't know, maybe one day I'm just gonna explode or something, but I know that, on paper and looking at it objectively, it looks like I had a really strange and odd and painful upbringing. And in some ways, yes, I did. But it was all of those experiences that led me to the paths that I'm on now. If I hadn't been, a child actor, I wouldn't have the doors open to me to be an actor and to know what I loved doing. And believe me, they were all shut at a certain point. I couldn't get a job to save my life. I think it was, when you get wasted, you get numb, and that's always a good thing, especially when you don't want to feel the pain. But I think I wouldn't trade it either. I wouldn't trade having the experiences I had, because I just wouldn't be who I am without them. I can't imagine what my mentality and outlook towards life is, what I would know doesn't work for me and what does. I think that I've just always had to, I can't look at the box and say, that's a box. I have to open the box, I have to turn it inside out, I have to smell it, taste it, examine every single angle, measure it, destroy it, rebuild it. That's the kind of person I am.
Well, I read that a few years back your house caught fire when you were asleep in it.
Yeah.
And it burned to the ground and you lost almost everything.
Yeah.
And you've said, or you've been quoted as saying that really changed your life. How did it change it?
Well, of course something like that is going to change your life. If it doesn't, you must be crazy. People would say, God, it must be so freeing to lose everything. And I'd be like, you know what? You don't want to know what I'm thinking right now, because it's obscenities being thrown at you in my head. Like, you lose everything and tell me if it's liberating. But I think what's interesting is that you can always pick up and start over. I think that's what made me realize that, stability doesn't come in anything material. It's just you're a bird and you can fly to the next nest, and, if your friends are still circling around it, perfect, and I didn't lose anything that really luckily changed my life in a bad way. My dogs, my friends, the people I love, that's all intact. So it just sort of made me feel, I guess, ultimately in a different way than people were saying it, because I didn't appreciate when people would say that's so freeing to lose everything you had, but it did end up freeing me in a whole different way, which is realizing I don't need any of that stuff. And you can always rebuild. God, my childhood told me that. My house burning down told me that. Some relationships I've had have told me that. There always is other chances and new days and a way to change and rebuild your life.